Hello, Libra, and welcome to your reading. This is Bright Soul Collective Tarot. My name is Laura, and these will be your intuitive insights and advice for mid-March into the beginning of April 2023. So this reading will be for Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. By all means, if you know your three major placements, you can feel free to listen to any and all of the readings that apply. Each one may resonate for you differently, have different little nuggets of information for you. And as always, before we get started, please do keep in mind these readings are general in nature, so they're meant to apply to a more broad collective of individuals, and that means that not every detail that comes through will necessarily be for you. For you. And I highly recommend you take anything and everything that does resonate, however that might make sense or whatever that might connect to in your personal circumstances. Definitely use your discretion in knowing what is best or will be most useful to you, and you can simply leave the rest. So Libra, welcome. I hope March is good to you thus far. We're just on the verge of spring, which is super exciting. So this is a nice time of year, and I'm so looking forward to getting into your reading for this time period. I have your oracle message here. Of course, we'll pull some tarot. I will take a moment to share a few channeled messages that I connected with before getting any cards out for you. And then we'll finish off with a couple of oracle messages for some additional detail, insight, and clarity. So before we get into your card, I will share with you the channeled energetic impression that I was picking up on as I was preparing your cards for the reading and connecting to your energy. The first thing that I noticed that kind of came through was just a general sense of like feeling good, like feeling pretty good. Being kind of like spirited, right? Like having high spirits. And so the thing also that I will say is like you may be feeling really, really good, like, really high spirits, excited, like things are going well. And if not that, I got the sense that like, there's at least, I was picking up on a sense of stability in terms of like how you're feeling, your mood, your outlook, how things are going. It's kind of just like, yeah, that's what I was picking up on. A sense of like things feeling pretty good, a sense of stability, not a lot of really like opposing energy at either end of the spectrum, not a lot of crazy stuff going on. That's kind of the vibe that I was getting. And because of that, and having that stability, you may be becoming more aware of the things that get at you, right? The people that kind of poke you, the things that trigger you, maybe things that aren't quite aligned or aren't sitting right with you, because you may be feeling a little bit more clarity just with that kind of stable and consistent day to day. You can kind of start picking out the things that maybe you're not so keen to continue interacting with. And then I also got a sense that you might be kind of just focused on routine, work, kind of just balancing things, like finding the right balance between work and play and like rest and taking action, money and like, I guess work and like family life, that kind of stuff. And then the other thing that came through is like maybe thinking of your friends, like having your friends on your mind a lot, whether they're people that you have, been in contact with for a long period of time or someone new, someone from the past. You might just find your mind wandering to your friends. And I would say like, along with that, if and when a friend happens to pop into your head, like, there could be something there for you. Maybe reach out to them, check in with them. But yeah, friendship was kind of highlighted in some way. And then the last thing that I kind of picked up on was a sense of working on your happiness. So this might not be like a new energy for you. Maybe you've kind of been on a path of like trying to cultivate more happiness and stability and peace, making decisions that are going to support you having a happy life and kind of just getting to a place where you're feeling good. So you could be kind of continuing to move along that path, perhaps starting to move along that path. But it was a sense of, kind of like seeing yourself moving forward and seeing things are starting to improve for you in that sense, particularly if it's something that you're consciously focused on. So we will get into your card now. So your oracle message and theme for this time period is showing up as fork in the road. So this is kind of neat. And what this tells me first and foremost is that it seems as though there is likely a decision to be made. And obviously that's a very general statement, but because this is a general reading, that circumstance and the type of change or the type of decision that needs to be made is going to be distinctly different for each and every one of you, depending on what you're currently going through. But yeah, this is a sense of kind of, yeah, you've come, I don't want to say an impasse, because an impasse, it kind of gives the impression that like there's a stalemate, there's no way forward. So this is just kind of an opportunity, right? Where the route ahead of you has diverged and you've got some options to consider. And the important part about the fork in the road is that this is not a juncture that we can stay at, right? So whatever the decision is, we do need to make a choice, right? Because the place that we're at, where we're looking down one path or the other and kind of assessing which direction we want to move in, the place where those points, diverge, is not a safe place for us to stay. And it's also not really conducive to like making a home out of, right? And so this change or this decision, it might be something that's been on your radar for a while, or it might just be really recent. It may be something that you're aware of and you're already kind of working on. It could even be something that you've been aware of and potentially putting on the back burner, maybe feeling a little bit hesitant or avoidant of. And the sense that I'm getting is it's like whether this is something that's come up just recently or whether it's something that's been on your radar that you maybe haven't been feeling quite ready to do. It kind of seems like the time for action is coming up, in this time period. And so you might find things hurrying along and you might find yourself really kind of needing to shit or get off the pot, so to speak. So the beneficial thing is that there are no wrong decisions, right? There's no right path and wrong path. So the beautiful thing about being at this fork in the road is that you can be guaranteed that regardless of the decision that you make, you are still going to have, a meaningful experience that is going to contribute to your overall growth, especially if you are open to moving along whichever path you choose with curiosity and, a growth mindset, and willing to be, experiencing life as it unfolds and kind of like picking up all the little bits and pieces of information and wisdom that are available to you. So there is no wrong decision. But the tough thing is that we can be indecisive, right? Sometimes it can be hard to feel confident because there is no right decision and because we don't know how each path will unfold, right? So there's a sense of vulnerability in that we don't have everything figured out. We're not able to predict the future. And so sometimes we get into analysis paralysis because there's no concrete way to know exactly what we want to do. And this is saying that's okay, right? Like we're not meant to see the future. We're not meant to have all of the details. We're meant to, do our best to make the decision that feels most aligned and to just allow ourselves to move along that path and have the experience as it's meant to unfold. So it's like you can only walk this path one step at a time. And so not to be hard on yourself or beat up on yourself about what that's going to look like, because it's kind of unreasonable to expect that you're going to have all of that information. And the beautiful part about that specifically is that, this is a decision that needs to be made from the heart, right? Intuitively. And it's trusting that when you recognize that a decision does need to be made, right? And that this isn't necessarily a place that you can just stay in. If you are open to considering your options, right? So you can only take into account what you do know, right? And what your options are. And you can do your best to weigh them, whether it's like pros and cons, whether it's just a gut feeling, like maybe one has you feeling a little bit excited, even if it's kind of scary and unknown. And maybe the other one leaves you feeling a little bit scared, but like more in terms of feeling though as though things are not right. So it's like only you know what's right for you. And with the information available to you, it's really important to take some time to give yourself space to connect with your intuition and check in with yourself when you're considering your options. Like, what is your gut telling you, right? And trying to kind of disconnect from that monkey mind, which can get away from us, and recognize, like, you know, when you're assessing those ideas, those choices, is there any fear creeping in? Are you being motivated by fear, or are you feeling as though you need to make a decision that might be rooted in fear? It might be rooted in, fulfilling someone else's needs, meeting someone else's expectations. You could even be tempted to, like, have other people help you make the choice, or looking for the answer outside of yourself. And this is basically saying, like, there's nothing in your external circumstances, there's no one and nothing else that is going to make it clear, or make the decision for you. It wouldn't serve you to move forward from that point. So this is really all within you, and you have all the information that you need to make the decision that's right for you. So it's about trusting that and really checking in and seeing how you feel about it, and then being able to step confidently forward on the path, knowing that you've committed to that path because you felt that that was what was right, and that you're going to have the experience that you need. And even if things don't turn out as you wish, or you have a challenging experience, it's trusting that you're still going to be you're still going to be moving forward on your path, that you're going to be having meaningful experiences, and you're going to have the opportunity to learn and have more perspective, so that when the next decision comes around, you have just more wisdom available to help you make a choice that feels aligned. And this is also saying, like, and along the vein of, like, this isn't necessarily a decision that can be avoided. It's saying that making no decision is a decision, right? And the thing is that the unfortunate part in avoiding making a decision, yes, we are making a decision at the end of the day, and we are going to have to move forward in one direction or another. But when we avoid making the decision, then it ends up being not necessarily empowered decision. So it's not coming from a place of us assessing our options and like throwing ourselves into a path that feels right and that we are kind of choosing to commit to. It's more it could be a bumpier road, right? So if you're afraid of making the wrong choice or having struggles ahead, it's better for you to just check in with yourself and make the decision that feels right, as opposed to avoiding making the decision and ultimately having to move forward and deal with whatever comes your way, right? So it's like you will be rewarded for making that decision from that place of empowerment, and at least you'll have that clarity and that conscious, like, peace of mind, knowing that you did what you could to work through it. The rest is out of your control, and you just kind of have to walk the path one step at a time. And there is something I got to take a look in the guidebook for, because there's something that stood out as being really beneficial. Also this could be work, family, relationships. This could manifest in any area of your life, but particularly when it comes to relationships, it may be a choice to move forward with a relationship or to end a relationship. And this can also talk about how we show up in relationships. So, you may, for example, if you have, like, intimacy or trust issues, or that's something that's difficult for you, perhaps if you have established a romantic relationship or a friendship that's really promising and healthy, and you're being given the opportunity to go deeper and to connect on a deeper level, you might be in a place of, like, fight or flight, because your fears may tell you that it's not safe to trust and to be vulnerable and open up. And so you might be tempted to shut down the relationship because you're afraid of going deeper, right? So it's kind of like you may be in a position where you're assessing, like, do I go deeper, or do I shut myself off and isolate myself? So that could be part of it. And this can also be a sense of, you might have the opportunity to kind of start blazing your own trail and moving forward on a unique path, right? So it's kind of like, are you going to stay with the familiar, or walk the beaten trail that and follow in the footsteps of people who have come before you, which that may be the best way forward for you, or maybe throwing what other people have done and how they've done it to the wind, and stepping out on a new path of, finding your own way, like blazing your own trail. So there's kind of like so many different qualities that this type of decision can have. But there's, the one line that stood out to me specifically is it says, "You've come as far as you can on this part of your journey, and now you're faced with a choice. Inherent in this choice is the need for change, for evolution, and for a bettering of your circumstances. Narrow it down to just a single question. Who do I need to become, and what do I need to believe in order to live a life of prosperity? Answer honestly and from the heart. The decision about which way to go will be effortless as a result. And know that abundance is all around you. Choose to see it, and it will be easier to settle on a direction, for the way will be made clear by your intuition, which knows how to steer you toward your well-being." So if you find that you're struggling in terms of like fear or doubt or anxiety, it's knowing that like you've got this inner compass that ultimately is going to take you in the direction that is best for you. The direction that is best for you isn't necessarily all, sunshine, rainbows, and things that are easy. You might incur some challenges or some loss, but it's really to help you move through a variety of experiences and learn to kind of manage those types of situations, to learn more about yourself, so that you have more perspective and more experience to become, I guess, more masterful in the way that you navigate through your life. And so, I think it's just important to recognize that the answers are within. And so if you can just take some time to connect with that information, it's not going to steer you wrong. And it makes it a little bit easier to feel peaceful about whatever decision you end up making at the end of the day. But I like that. Like who do I want to be? And like, what do I need to do to connect with that? And then just see what your intuition tells you. And that's the nice thing about reflection, is like, taking time to ask yourself those questions and then see how you feel in response. It could be a physical sensation. It might be specifically like ideas, thoughts and feelings. But that'll give you a good idea of where you're at. Okay, so your second card. So first card is showing up as Judgment. Your second card is the Six of Pentacles. And your third card is the Five of Wands. And then we've got the Three of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. Okay. This is really kind of interesting. So first I'll touch quickly on the Three of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck, because this is the underlying energy, or like the past energy that's informing what's going on for you guys right now. And so this could be deep past, it could be recent past, it could be something that you've just kind of gone through and overcome, or something that is still kind of on your radar or you're working through. But this is an energy of like collaboration, building, right? Like working to secure a stable material foundation. And so that could be literal. It could be like your house, your home, your family. It could be your health, it could be your finances, it could be your career, or like, moving in the direction along your career path, whether that's getting, the education that you need. And this is kind of like working in collaboration with other people to kind of move in that direction. So that could be, collaborating with coworkers at work to kind of like achieve an end goal. It could be collaborating with friends, but it's recognizing that everybody has their own unique set of skills, and everybody has something that they can contribute in a group setting. And the best way to collaborate, like we can achieve more quickly when we collaborate effectively than we can doing it alone. And so especially if you're somebody who's used to being pretty independent and doing things on your own, it could be that you were introduced to the opportunity to work more collaboratively, or maybe you were challenged to start working more collaboratively, or maybe like it's about confidence in the role that you play and the strength or the skill that you have to offer. But this is about working in equal partnership. It's about respecting yourself and what you have to offer and respecting what others do and working together in harmony, right? So it's allowing people to express their strengths and noticing that each person plays a vital role and no person is better, like less or more important than the other. And when you're able to kind of work in harmony, it allows you to bring whatever it is that you're trying to achieve to fruition a lot more effectively, right? And people work better in a group when their strengths are recognized and they're given the opportunity to shine, and when they also allow that for others, right? So people recognize the give and take, and there can be that kind of harmony, right? So this is not a micromanaged environment. This is an environment where people know their strengths, they know their role, they're able to fulfill that role, and they're able to support others in fulfilling their role. And there's no like competition or animosity. It's like everybody's kind of working together on to achieve the same goal for the same purpose. And so it can be a challenging energy trying to bring different personalities or different skills together. But when you practice and when you kind of nail it, it can be really, really fulfilling. So not only in the sense that you see things come to fruition or you see that goal achieved, but that people feel good about the way that they're interacting and collaborating and about the role that they play. So that's kind of like an interesting energy to have behind all of this, especially when it comes to a decision. So the decision that you need to make could be inspired by this. It could be inspired by whatever you do for work, your money, your stability, whatever it is that you're trying to manifest in terms of your like finances or material goods or like your home. And the interesting thing is what you need to know right now is showing up as judgment. And so particularly if this is a decision that you're aware of and you are struggling with, you might find yourself grappling with judgment, self-judgment. So this could be fearing that others are going to judge you for the decision that you make and allowing that to sway you, having guilt or shame or putting pressure on yourself about what you feel you should do versus what you feel you want to do. And this could also be judging yourself, right? Judging yourself in terms of like how you feel you should be acting, what you should be valuing and why, right? And so this can be this can be like being at odds with yourself. So for example, if you're considering your choices, considering your options in order to prepare to make a decision, you could be judging yourself because perhaps one path is very practical and very stable and it just kind of like makes sense on paper and it's solely like logical. And maybe the other path would be more related to like your heart, your emotion, your passion, your fulfillment, what's most meaningful to you. And so you might be jumping back and forth saying like, well, this is what's most important to me and I want to feel fulfilled and I want to make a decision that I can feel good about because it's something important to me, right? And then when you get into that energy, you might start to guilt yourself and say, well, this other option is really stable financially and I would make a lot more money, or we would have, more savings, or I have a better pension and benefits and we'd be able to like buy a bigger house or, get married or whatever the case may be. And so the trouble is like with either option, there's always going to be pros and cons, and you're always going to be working through and weighing those. But when you get into that place of self-judgment, it's almost like regardless of what decision that you make, you're going to be judging yourself as, either being unworthy or making the wrong decision or having the wrong motivations, right? And so this is reminding you this is not a choice that can just be made logically, right? Because when we think logically, a lot of the time we're thinking about our external circumstances and we're thinking about we're thinking about the pressures of like living a material existence, and we're thinking about our family and our friends and our significant others, and we're thinking about the people that we work with and what they're going to think about us if we make this kind of decision versus this kind of decision. And this is remembering like this is all about you, right? This is about your experience and your path. Not to say that other people aren't going to be impacted, and also not to say that there isn't any place for logic, because we have to be responsible in terms of like, our obligations, our duties, being responsible in terms of like, if it's career related, like, obviously we need to make money to survive. And so we don't want to be reckless and putting ourselves in a bad position. But if it's like, if it's like, well, I could make $20,000 more a year to do something soulless, or I could take a slight pay cut, which, wouldn't be ideal, but we could still make ends meet and things would still be fine. And I would have a lot more fulfillment, right? So it's kind of like, this is about you and your path. And of course, if you have a significant other and you've got other people that are dependent on you, then you do need to take that into consideration. But it's about finding a solution that's going to honor you and what you feel is right for you. And that's going to be fair, right, for everybody. So with judgment showing up, you may not be very fair to yourself, and you could be somebody who quite often puts the needs or the thoughts and opinions of others ahead of you. And you may not even recognize that, because that could be something that was ingrained in you as you grew up, right? That it was just expected that you didn't make decisions based on how they make you feel or what you want. But it's more about it's more about money. It's more about appearances. It's more about, making other people happy or feeling like you have something to prove. And this is basically saying, like, you don't have anything to prove. And the more that you get in touch with yourself and that you learn to accept yourself, light and shadow, the easier it is to release that judgment, because we recognize we're not perfect. We recognize that we make mistakes, and that we have unfavorable qualities just as we have beautiful qualities. And when you can kind of bring that sense of self-acceptance into wholeness, and connect with a more unconditional love for yourself, this is kind of when you release the judgment, right? When you release fear of judgment and you release self-judgment, right? You're able to kind of let your true self shine, right? You're connecting with your true self and you're making decisions from a place of empowerment and authenticity. And the decisions that you make from that place are going to take you further along that path. Whereas when you make decisions out of fear, shame, guilt, or to try and please someone else, you're not necessarily being true to yourself. And so the experiences that you have as a result are going to be testing you to come back to center and to find yourself, right? And so a lot of times those decisions don't necessarily benefit us in the way that we would hope, because we haven't made them from a place of conscious self-awareness. So this is a really beautiful opportunity for you to see, like, who is this? Like, who is this person inside of you? Like, this, what is the most authentic and beautiful and loving expression of yourself? And how do you hold yourself back from connecting to and being moved by that energy and expressing that energy? Because a lot of times it's just self-imposed, right? And this is an opportunity for you to recognize the ways that you might be holding yourself back and to release that judgment so that you can make the decision that feels best to you intuitively. You can give yourself the opportunity to shine, and you can trust that that decision will be right for you and you're going to have the experiences that you need. And the thing that's showing up as the challenge for you is the Six of Pentacles. And so it could very well be that your relationship to money and abundance might be the very thing that kind of gets you in that place of self-judgment or takes you out of connection to your intuition, right? So there might be a preoccupation with money. There might be a preoccupation with finances. There might be a preoccupation with like a sense of identifying yourself with, the material side of life. So like with the money that you make, with the profession or the career that you have, like kind of aligning yourself with the status or, identifying yourself with whatever that is, and like what kind of car you drive, or, what kind of house you have, what kind of trips you go on. So there might, that could be what's tugging at you is following your passions and something that's going to be fulfilling versus like how you're showing up in the material world. And the Six of Pentacles specifically, you can see there's this infinity sign, and like the money, it's like the flow. This is the flow of abundance and prosperity. So this talks about, sometimes it means that we come into prosperity, and we're feeling abundant, we're feeling stable, and how it is important not to get stuck in trying to hold on to or maintain that stability, because we can interrupt the flow of things, right? So if we so this kind of highlights like sharing the wealth, like recognizing and being grateful for the abundance that you do have, allowing yourself to recognize and appreciate it, but also being willing to share that, being willing to spend the money that you make, being willing to give of the resources that you have, because this is not just material resources. This can be time, energy, love, attention. But it's basically like recognizing how abundance shows up in your life and what you are blessed enough to be able to receive and to have, and how you can share that with other people, right? Because that kind of treasure, when shared, it multiplies. And the more that you put that out into the world, the more that comes back to you, because this is also kind of like the karmic cycle. So it's important to make sure that we're not making decisions that stop the flow of abundance, particularly if we're looking to hold on to things tightly. If we're worried that taking a step in the direction of connecting with more prosperity is actually like not going to work out for us, like if we are afraid that there's nothing more for us or that we're not going to keep moving, then we can make decisions that keep us stuck in one place, which means that we're not open to receiving more. So yeah, this might have to do with your relationship to abundance, and your belief in what is available to you, specifically materially when it comes to finances. You might think that like there's no opportunity for you to have more or to connect with more money, even though it might be something that you want. Or you might think that, if you make a decision from the heart, then there's no way that can translate into more material stability and abundance, which is not right, not necessarily true, right? We can make decisions that are solely based on connecting with more material abundance and have that backfire. And not only that, but we can feel impoverished emotionally as a result of making those decisions. Whereas it's also possible for us to make decisions from a place of empowerment and inspiration. And even though it might not seem like it's going to be the most profitable or the most prosperous path, because it's something that we're passionate about, it can open the door to opportunities that we wouldn't necessarily have recognized. And so it might not seem that there's an opportunity for more money to be made, but you can't base it solely on what you see, right? And so this is saying like abundance is always flowing, right? And sometimes in surprising ways. And we don't necessarily know how things are going to pan out. So we can't decide that we know that something's not going to be fruitful, because we don't know until we do it, right? And even if it doesn't work out, you're going to have experience, you're going to have wisdom, and it might open the door to something else that's going to lead you there, right? So it's kind of recognizing that we have to continue taking steps along our path. And sometimes we need to have certain experiences or learn certain lessons before we see that abundance come in, or before we see our goal materialize. So even if things don't seem to be particularly stable, or even if you're worried that they might not be, it's important to keep moving, right? And to keep, to remain open to receiving abundance, and to also sharing the wealth when you're experiencing good fortune as well. Because there's always going to be this ebb and flow, and what you're focusing on is what manifests in your reality. That's what you are motivated by. That's what is imbued in the actions that you take, and that's what you're looking for. So, if you're in a lack mindset where there's no opportunity and there isn't enough, then you're not necessarily going to be looking for those opportunities, and you probably won't see them. Whereas if you're in, an abundance mindset where there's lots of opportunities and like things can surprise you, then you're open to seeing the opportunities that may present themselves, and you'll be able to determine, if a specific opportunity is right for you, right? If you feel drawn to it, and seeing how that goes. So it's kind of like everything is always in motion, and what you put out into the world comes back to you in one form or another, right? So it's kind of like you have to have a certain level of trust and being okay with not knowing exactly everything to stay in this flow of abundance and to continue receiving. And so that might be something that's hanging you up when it comes to whatever this decision is for you. And your advice for working through this energy and keeping things in the flow is like you might have to fight for it a little bit, right? And so your passion, whatever it is that excites you, whatever inspires you to take action, whatever makes you feel like whatever lights you up, right? It makes you feel more like yourself. That's the energy that you want to be in and you want to be connecting with, because that's what's going to help you to connect to your inner light and shine that inner light. And that is what's going to help you work through and release any self-judgment or any fear of external judgment, right? Because this is this fiery, authentic energy. And if you're aware of that and you lean into that, make more space for it in your life, it's going to help you to connect with yourself, right? And like, so you can see they're kind of climbing the ladder, and it almost looks like a race. Like, it almost looks like there's a little bit of chaos here. There might be a little bit of friction. There might be people like getting in your way, or people questioning you, or people trying to kind of keep you from moving up to the next step, right? You know, it's like a race, right? Where other people are competing. So you might be running into that, and that could be throwing you off your game. And this is basically saying, like, you know, you have to have that kind of fire and enthusiasm. You've got to have a little bit of fight in you, so that if you do run into people who are questioning you and poking at you, or trying to kind of knock you or hold you down, and that introduce this kind of sense of judgment or shame or guilt or whatever it is that might make you play small and make a decision that isn't necessarily going to feel empowered to you. It's like you might have to fight them a little bit. You might have to fight for your freedom, fight to kind of keep that spark ignited and to allow it to light your path forward. So yeah, there might be a little bit of like conflict that you run into. And I would say that if you do run into conflict, obviously, like, we want to be aware of what we're experiencing, and we want to be empowered to move through things. So if you're experiencing a lot of anger and frustration, it's obviously best to like take some time to cool down, to see what's really going on, what you're upset about, and how you might best go about remedying that. But this is also like standing up for yourself, right? Like, not taking shit from anyone, not letting anyone dim your light or making you feel small, because those people are coming at you from their own perspective. And a lot of the stuff that people come at us with is really just projection of their own issues and their own insecurities and their own lessons to be learned, which is none of your business. Like, that's not your responsibility. And nothing that you can do and no decision that you can make is going to resolve that for them. So even if someone's coming at you and saying, you should make this decision because this is the right thing and this is what I think, you could make that decision and that person would still be the same. They're not necessarily going to be happy, right? And because it's your life, you're the one who has to follow through, right? You're the one who has to take accountability for that decision and follow it through to the end. So if you've made it for someone else, not only are they not going to have the experience and be changed by it, but you might have an experience that's more reflective of, you need to make the choice that's right for you, as opposed to like dealing with, you know, I don't want to say moving further along your path, because we're always moving along our path, we're always having experiences, but it's like, you know, at least consciously making the decision to do something that speaks to you, and having the results that are, or having them experiences as a result that are going to help you continue moving along that path, as opposed to having to learn the lesson first and foremost, not to listen to other people or do what they expect you to do. But yeah, so I would say, if you're running into conflict, don't take it personally. Don't take it as a sign that you're wrong or that you've done something wrong. Don't allow people to make you feel small. And anytime that you are feeling a little bit undercut or defensive, it's remembering, like, this is just a challenge. This is a challenge for you to remain true to yourself, to connect with your intuition and your authenticity, and to express yourself in a way that feels true and aligned for you. Right? And whether or not other people are able to understand or receive that, you know, you're always going to have people on both sides of the fence, right? And so at the end of the day, this is a test for you, right? This is a test for you to hold your ground, to keep reaching, right? To keep reaching for whatever it is that's important to you. And sometimes you have to fight for it, right? Because it's that passion and enthusiasm that helps to keep us motivated and inspired to move forward. And if we allow someone to take that from us, like, that, it can't be taken from us unless we consent, right? And so this is basically saying, like, you're kind of the master of your destiny, and you might just need to get a little bit spicy, you know? You might have to be a little bit more fiery, a little bit more aggressive, maybe a little bit more firm in asserting boundaries and standing up for yourself, and making sure that, you know, you're prioritizing what's important to you. Because this 5 of Wands energy, as much as it can be like conflict, This is like a learning experience. This is kind of like a safe environment for you to learn this skill so that you keep climbing the ladder, and you don't allow the people that are below you to drag you down or throw you off. Because you're capable. You're capable of making the right decision for yourself. You're capable of knowing what's right for you, and you're capable of dealing with the consequences or the results of whatever decision that you've made. Because this is all about you. It's all about you and what you're looking to get out of life, right? And so you don't have to worry about what anyone else thinks, because when you know yourself and you're making empowered and authentic decisions, you're going to get exactly what you need out of your experiences. And everyone's responsible for their own growth. So don't let the things that are going on in your external circumstances impact how you feel about yourself or what kind of decision that you can make, because it's all within you, and this spark might just need a little bit of fanning in order to kind of take off this month. But yeah, whatever decision you guys have to make, there is always the opportunity for it to be a really beautiful and meaningful experience. So that's really exciting. It can be challenging, it can be scary, you can feel vulnerable, not quite knowing what is going to come next, but it's also really promising, because with that unknown, there's an immense amount of opportunity, and things could unfold in any number of ways that that you would never even anticipate. And that's kind of like the journey of life. So I'm going to share with you the few channeled messages I connected with before I began your reading, and then we'll get 2 final oracle messages to tie everything together. So the first message that came through for you guys is actually a song, and it was like a specific line in this song. So it's the song I Swear by All for One. And specifically what came through was, and I swear by the moon and the stars in the sky, I'll be there. And so you may have a connection to this song already. It might be meaningful to you. Maybe it's something that'll come up for you this month. But as always, when songs come up, I really highly recommend that you look the song up, give it a listen, pay attention to and read through the lyrics, and just see how it makes you feel. See what comes up for you, see what resonates for you. This is a song about like love and devotion and like showing up for somebody, being committed. And so this could be like, this is obviously like a very romantic kind of song, but this can also just be your relationship to yourself, right? Because that's kind of what we're looking at here, is like how you relate to yourself and how you think about yourself, and what role judgment plays in your life. So yeah, it could be about your relationship to yourself, being true to yourself. It could be about, a romantic relationship, a friendship, right? It'll be different for each and every one of you, but yeah, there may be a message there for you. It might be something beneficial. So definitely check it out. The next message that came through was the elephant in the room. And so obviously when we think about that, it's kind of like the sense that, there's an issue, there's something obvious there that needs to be discussed or needs to be resolved. And like everyone, or mostly everyone, is aware of it, but no one's really addressing it or talking about it, right? And then it's just kind of like this awkward, uncomfortable thing where it's like, we know it's there, we know we need to figure it out, but we're just kind of putting it off. And that could be, the elephant in the room could be this decision, or it could be something completely different. But the thing that I would say in relationship to that, like whether it's to do with you, your family, your friends, your work, your relationship, you may need to be the one to address it, right? Like you might need to be the one to actively say like, okay, this is an issue. Like I'm sure we all know, and it's not serving us to recognize that it's here and just allow it to go, unacknowledged. It'll be better for everyone if we can just like figure out how to work through this. But yeah, so especially if it's something that's been going on for a while, or it's been creating some discomfort or anxiety for you, you may very well need to be the one to address it and say like, listen, this has gone on for long enough. Like, let's just figure this out. And because you have the gift of fair and honest communication, and you guys are beautiful mediators, you might be the perfect person to kind of bring light to this situation and help, help everybody involved navigate, from a place where we can kind of acknowledge the emotional implications without being triggered, and to help people work through it in a way that's going to be fair and just and productive, instead of waiting for this thing to just kind of come to the point where it's reached a breaking point and people are feeling really triggered, or there's a big blow up. So there might be an opportunity for you to kind of just nip that in the bud before it becomes an issue or a bigger issue than it may already be. And the last thing that came through was so bizarre, and it, like, as soon as it popped into my head, I'm like, this is weird. So it may be very, very specific for even just one person, or it might be something that you want to look into. But the thing that came through was Mexican healing. And then it was kind of like a Mexican healing ceremony or ritual. That could be related to like a shaman or a healer. Or it could even just be like, if you have a connection to Mexico, if you've been to Mexico, there could have been an experience that you had that was somewhat spiritual or healing in nature. I have no idea. Or the thing, it could also be local. There might be a connection to, or there might be someone with connections to Mexico or of like Mexican background or heritage that may function in some kind of healing role. But yeah, that was really, really bizarre. I would be so curious if that does have any meaning to you, because obviously I was trying to figure it out and I'm like, I don't even know what this means. So we covered it. We put it out there for you. If it has any significance or it sparks your interest, you will know, and you can do what you will with that information. So we'll get you a couple of final oracle messages just to get a little bit of additional insight on this, the progression of this energy and anything else that might be helpful to you. So your crystal spirit message is Seraphos Green Quartz. I don't think I've ever pulled this card before. So I'm just going to read directly from the guidebook and we'll see what it has to say. And you can determine if anything speaks to you or how it resonates. So the essential meaning is life on life's terms, joie de vivre, and acceptance of our place in the world, heaven on earth, what is meant to be. As long as we are human, we will face times when the only choice is to accept life on its own terms. But in that acceptance lies a most precious treasure, the gift of now. Surrender to this moment exactly as it is, and your heart will open, releasing what needs to be left behind as you join with the conscious universe on a journey of your own healing. Something wonderful is awaiting you, but first you must be present in what is, so that you can have this experience and receive the gift of recognizing that you are stronger than you know. When the wheel of fortune turns, you may look back on this moment as crucial for your growth. Very often, unanswered prayers and unexpected twists of fate lead to the destiny the heart seeks. Trust now in this process of acceptance. Trust that the conscious universe has your back. A relationship. The rigidity you felt when pushing for what you desired is absent now, as you are coming to accept that what is cannot be changed, at least not yet. The moment must be experienced exactly as it is, so that you may see your relationship with clarity. Being honest about what you can change and what you can't is a big step toward co-creating what you desire and deserve. So be present, let the tears flow, and rest assured that the conscious universe is your ally. There is far more love coming your way than you can even begin to imagine. Prosperity. Seraphos Green Quartz Spirit appears to tell you that the foundations of wealth may not be obvious in your life at this moment, but you are meant to have certain experiences for the sake of your soul's calling. So it's kind of what I was saying between, like, the abundance and stability versus, like, your inspiration, your passion, your soul's calling, right? There is a gift therein, so accept what is. Tomorrow is a different day, offering different opportunities. Accept any losses or disappointments and be fully present to the moment and the lessons it brings. Much is coming your way more quickly than you might expect. And then meditation. Seraphos Green Quartz is a type of quartz only found on the island of Seraphos in Greece. It grows in odd shapes, often reminiscent of plant life. This beautiful crystal can be used for healing the physical body, opening the heart, and connecting to nature and all of life. Oh, interesting. So there may also be a connection to Seraphos, Greece for you. That's kind of cool. Okay. So we're gonna get you one final oracle message just to see what else there might be for you here. Okay. And you've got no. And it says wait, postpone, pause, say no. And let me just go to the guidebook and we'll see what it says. Okay, so it says, you are being called to either pause or say no. Saying yes to something that isn't in alignment with you will drain your energy and your time. Hold out for a congruent, aligned 100% yes. Often when we are looking for guidance to make a decision, it can be frustrating not to move into clear and considered action. However, timing is everything, and not receiving clear guidance is actually clear guidance in itself. We all go through times known as waiting periods. These times are crucial for our body to regenerate, the new path to formulate, and the universe to begin creating things on our behalf. You don't need to be plowing forward all the time to move forward. A potent, congruent yes when the time is right will put you ahead leaps and bounds. Don't force things now just because it seems like the only option. Take a breather and wait. The waiting is actually very productive, for when the time for movement comes, you will be ready to dive right in. Use this time to regenerate and ponder what you truly want. Consider the options. If options are not clear, don't fear, because this time is a gift. Use it to tend to your garden and take rest, to take a moment from your busy life to clear the decks and prepare for the time in the future. For come spring, clarity will bloom, and you will have the reserves, space, and drive to say yes and act and move quickly. And then the action or the advice says say no, postpone, or wait. So that's really interesting, right? Because when we're talking about a fork in the road and the fact that when the paths diverge, we obviously have to make a decision to go in one direction or another, and we're not meant to just make a home out of that place, right? Because no decision is still making a decision. So this is saying that you might really need to just allow yourself to take some time. So if you know the decision needs to be made, the more pressure that you put on yourself to make a decision quickly or to figure things out quickly, the more likely you are to be swayed by external factors that aren't necessarily, aligned, right? So if you're feeling rushed, if you're feeling pressured, that's going to take you out of that energy that you need to be in order to make like a fully, intuitive, like 100% yes, right? And so this is about taking the time that you need to assess your options and to work through and to feel. So if you don't have clarity right now, the more pressure that you put on yourself to find that clarity, the more you might actually be disconnecting from it, right? So if you can allow yourself the opportunity to say, like, I can give myself some time. It might not be a long time. Maybe it's just a day. Like maybe you just need a day to kind of work through things. Maybe you need to sleep on it. Maybe you have a timeline, like you've got 2 weeks for the decision to be made and you're trying to make it now. So give yourself that time, right? And allow yourself to kind of, to look inward and to consider your options and to see how those options make you feel, right? Because if you rush the decision and you say yes when it's not 100% yes, in thinking that making that decision more quickly is going to get you further ahead, it's basically saying that, like, there's a time to wait and there's a time to act. And if we try to push, if we try to make a decision before we're ready, then ultimately it can actually set us back, right? Which you don't necessarily think about that. Whereas sometimes waiting until you get the clarity to have 100% confident yes, in spite of the fact that, okay, maybe you delayed the decision 2 weeks, but it worked out in your favor because you've got your yes, you're confident about it, and things can move forward even more quickly, right? So give yourself that time. Take the time that you need. Obviously, we don't want to be procrastinating or avoiding, but take the time that you need to be sure about what you're doing and to be sure that that's what's right for you. And if you don't have that clarity yet, then it's not the right time to make that decision, right? So I think that's really, really good advice for you guys. I'm going to get you, I think that's actually like a really important thing that I hadn't even touched on yet. So I'm really glad that came out for you guys. I'm going to get you just a couple of affirmations that might be helpful for you this month as you work through these energies. Oh gosh, they all fell on the floor, so let me just pick them up. I've been doing 3, but you guys got a bonus one, so that's fun. You might want to hold on to these, use them as you see necessary throughout the month. Sleep is a spiritual practice, so it's important to be getting your rest. It's really, really difficult to connect with yourself when you're feeling run down. We kind of get into that fight or flight survival, which takes us into doing from being, and it can make it a little bit more difficult to really connect with that inner wisdom and get to that place of confidence in the decisions that we're making. So make sure you're prioritizing rest. I make time to recharge my battery. The world needs my energetic light. Yeah, so it could just be like maybe you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to be constantly moving forward, and that's actually draining you of the energy that you need in order to kind of shine your light, right? So it's recognizing you've got something valuable to offer, and sometimes you just need to take time to like rest and recharge and check in with yourself, and then you can show up and make strong decisions and move forward more effectively when you have that kind of rest and peace. My presence is my power. So being in the present moment, right? Paying attention, getting into your body, right? Focusing on what's going on around you, what information is available to you, and how you can respond in this current situation. That's where your power is. So if you find yourself being, reflecting on the past and projecting that into the future, or worrying about the future, it's recognizing that when you do that, you're actually bleeding that energy, and that energy is what you need to harness to take action right now. Like now is the only time that we can act, right? So anytime that you're kind of reflecting too much on the past, or getting stuck in the past, or worrying too much about the future, it might be helpful to just bring yourself into the present moment, maybe a meditation, grounding meditation. But right here and right now is where you have the most power. And if your mind is kind of caught up, then you're not able to use that power in your best interests, I guess, or in the most effective way. And then finally, the key to getting what I want is to ask for it. Yeah, so that's really good. So it's like ask and you shall receive. A lot of times, even from a spiritual perspective, the universe, God, angels, like however you want to connect to spirituality, there is a lot of support that's available to us, but it can't intervene. It can't interfere, right? So we have to say, like, what is it that we're trying to do? What do we need help with? To ask for help, right? And then to be open to what kind of support or how our kind of prayers may be answered, right? And to be flexible in how that might unfold. But similarly, also in relationships with people, especially if you tend to be a people pleaser or more concerned with like what other people want, we can end up feeling neglected, and we can neglect ourselves. So if there's something that you need or something that you're looking for, it doesn't hurt to ask, right? Because there's no way we're going to get it if we don't ask. So you might as well, right? And it's recognizing that you deserve to ask for what you need. And that perhaps the process of asking, if it's not received well, then that might give you the clarity that you need to move forward. So if there's something that you need, go ahead and ask for it, because you've got nothing to lose in that sense. But yeah. So Libra, I'm going to leave your reading here. I hope this was helpful. If you did enjoy this reading at all, or you found it at all to be helpful, the best way to support me is to like this video on YouTube, and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think or how it resonated. Beyond that, if there's anyone you could think of that might enjoy my readings, you can feel free to share my channel or my content with them. If you haven't already, make sure you hop over to my channel at Bright Soul Collective Tarot and ensure you're not only subscribed to the channel, but also signed up for notifications, which is that little bell icon. That will keep you updated on new readings as they're posted. So Libra, it's been an absolute pleasure reading for you. I hope the rest of March and into the beginning of April is good to you. This is a really promising energy, and it looks like there's a lot of potential here, which is very exciting. So I've very much enjoyed reading for you, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you again next month. In the meantime, I'm wishing you all the very best.